Okay, so obviously this is just pretty much to hold off until I can get the Spider-Man review out, which, as I said, will probably be Sunday night, if all goes well. But in the meantime, just to have kind of a space filler here, Before I Fall came out on DVD, so I thought I would go ahead and check that out. And so, at first, going in, I kind of felt like it was going to be a movie very akin to If I Stay, the Chloe Moretz movie, the incredibly dreadful, horrible, terrible Chloe Moretz movie. I reviewed that about 3 years ago. I think my throat still hurts from that. I mean, it's not. It toys in the same areas, but it's not quite the same thing. It's much better. It's much better. I'll say that. Not that the bar is high, and not that that means anything for this, but it's better. So we start off, and it's one of those things where we have the group of girls, and there's the drunk. There's the, what is she supposed to be, the smart one. There is the kind of leader. And then we have Zoe Deutsch. Zoe Deutsch, who is like the Veronica to these Heathers here. Even though she's basically becoming one, she's become one herself at this point. So we see her, and she's like really shitty to her family, and she's mean to her sister even when she's trying to help. She is dismissive of her mom, Jennifer Beals, for some reason. And she meets up with the girls, and they just do their teenage girl thing, or what today's screenwriters think is the teenage girl thing. It's hard to tell anymore. They call each other their bays, they speak in unison, and when they get to school, they walk in line in slow-mo like they're in like an apparel commercial. And it's really, yeah, clueless they are not. And they basically live to talk about mundane shit, mainly the fact that Zoe Deutsch is going to try to lose her virginity on Cupid Day to her cliche douche boyfriend. This is the guy that he doesn't like romance. Like when he sends her a rose, it has a note that says, "Love ya, YA, are you happy now?" And he's got the nose ring, and he's got the backwards hat, and he's just all around douche, but they're like, "Oh, but he's so cute, oh, you want to do him so bad, oh, shit like that, fuck that." That's what a large part of the story is will she fuck him? Will she lose her virginity to him? Will she give up her innocence to him? Yeah, that's where the movie lies, but that's not all. They're also relentless bullies to the weird girl. She, like, has the hair on her face, and she does the drawings. She's, like, a bit of a creepier version of Ally Sheedy in The Breakfast Club. And then it turns out they also bully a lesbian. We never really hear about that until halfway through the movie when it's supposed to be important. We pretty much only see them bully the weird girl, and the lesbian's, like, on the side and makes, like, one comment. But, okay, they bully everybody. We'll go with that. So, moral of the story is, everyone in this movie is a piece of shit. So, then, as they're leaving the party, they get into a car wreck. And I feel like right then, it should have been like a half-hour-long movie, that it was just like, we introduce them, and then they crash their car, and we go to darkness, and it just says, "PSA, don't be a fuck," and then the credits roll. But, no, it's gonna take another hour for them to reach the point where the message is, you know what, don't be a fuck. Because being that young, you feel like you're invincible, but maybe this day is your last one. You don't know. So, we take the Groundhog Day approach. You know, where it was like, when Edge of Tomorrow came out, everybody was like, oh, it's like Starship Troopers, but the Groundhog Day scenario. Well, now it's like, oh, this is just another young adult novel, only with the Groundhog Day approach. Now, to be fair, this movie's book came out about 4 years before Edge of Tomorrow. So, you could say this did it, well, first, if we're going to talk about taking the Groundhog Day scenario from Groundhog Day. But still, everything feels very off here. Not near to the effect. Like, everything here is just like a dead stop that makes you stop and question, well, does this work or does this not work? Like, the second time around, when she realizes that everything is repeating, and she keeps trying to figure out if it was all a dream, if it's all coincidence, or what it is, and it gets more and more obvious as it goes. So she's gonna maybe try to change some things, because she remembers that they die in a car wreck, supposedly, at the end of this, and what she can do to prevent that. Well, the second time around, she's already figured this all out, but by the time it gets to the point to where the end of the day is coming again, we just cut to her and she's in the car again, and we know it's going to crash again. But the thing is that she's figured it out by this point, so we never get that scene where it's like she tries to figure out what to do when time comes to get in the car again. We just gloss over that. We cut from her to the party to her in the car. But she already knows that they're going to crash and die again. But no scene of her saying, you know, like, trying to get out of it or trying to make something different or say, you know what, I'm not going to get in the car because I think something bad's going to happen. Just no debate, just cut, she's in the car, they crash again. I felt like something was missing there. So then it goes on, and very quickly, too quickly, because obviously when you look at, like, you know, Groundhog Day or Edge of Tomorrow or something, you see the gradual, what this does to the character gradually. How Cruz starts to figure things out more clearly and can try them in different ways, and then he eventually gets to a point. And we slowly kind of realize, and they show us in an effective way how he managed to fall for Emily Blunt and how many times this has happened. It's a nice big reveal to show you, whoa, and it's impactful. And obviously in Groundhog Day, we see Bill Murray go from enjoying this, or being confused, then kind of enjoying it, and then using it to his advantage, until ultimately he starts getting depressed and just finding different ways to kill himself. That gradual thing is not here at all. We see a montage of her getting up over and over again, but then it's just 1 minute she's confused and scared, and the next minute she's jaded by it, and, you know, angry at it, and, you know, doesn't know what to do when she reaches the end of the day. And there's just such an abrupt cut to that, you know, there's no gradual thing here. She's just one, then she's the other. And there's really, it's not really easy to feel for her when we get to that point. It's not really easy to feel for her to begin with, because we see how much of a piece of shit these characters are in the first half hour. But then we kind of have to watch this happen, and there is, you know, that intense scene when it's always 2:39 that the crash happens and they die. So it gets to 2:39. She's managed to get them away from the party and make it not play out that way, and then she sits here and just watches the clock go from 12:39 to 12:40, and 12:40 means they're in the clear. They're still alive. That was a nice intense scene to kind of play on that, to where it's like, what is going to happen, because it feels like something will happen. And sure enough, we do play up that kind of time machine setup, the time machine concept, where it's the, no matter what you change, something is still going to fill that void, something bad is still going to happen. And then we kind of, like, it's going to be the same outcome one way or another. So I get that, and it's very much, it's just very played out. Like, the thing here is, you think about this and you think, it's probably happened before, but you think about it and it's like, the concept's been mainly done, and most notably done, in Groundhog Day and Edge of Tomorrow, but it's like, so if it's only 2 movies, how can it be played out? Well, the concept that we're playing out here is repetition, which is going to wear and tire a lot easier than other reused concepts, especially if you're not doing it as carefully as the other 2 movies do, or as thought out as the other 2 movies do. And maybe, like, in that jump in time, maybe the book goes more into it, but alas, I'm not reviewing the book, I'm reviewing the movie, which happens to come out in 2017, 3 years after Edge of Tomorrow, still trying to play up this concept and make it interesting and take various turns with it. And when you've seen it done so well already, this is very underwhelming. Even with the other, like, even say the other 2 movies didn't exist and you just had this and just had this concept, I still think it would seem fresh, it would seem creative, it would seem different, but you'd still be walking away saying, I feel like they wasted some opportunities. I feel like they could have delved deeper and made more creative decisions. It just makes it worse that 2 movies already exist that have a much more well thought out take on this concept. To be fair, when it does tie together, it does make sense. Like, it is nice that we do get to a point where all of it kind of ties up and we realize where we were headed to begin with. And I like that. I do think it makes sense once we get to that point, but leading up to it, there's just too much, there's too much glossed over. The characters are not, you know, it's really hard. We're supposed to feel like they're flawed, and it's like they get to a point where they know they're flawed, and they may try to fix themselves. They may not. We don't get that far, and then we get the stuff like, you know, the dorky guy, and it's like the second we see that dorky guy that likes Zoe Deutsch's character, it's like he's one of those characters where it doesn't matter what this movie is going to do. You see that character and you can pinpoint every single direction that story is going. Just at the sight of him, just at first sight of him, you know exactly what his purpose is and where the story's going to go, and you have to wait for all that to play out through the whole movie. And it just makes it all it really kind of dies down the decent parts of it, and really just makes it another movie of its kind in that young adult fashion. Zoe Deutsch here despite her character, is good. She's well cast. She's very well cast, and that really works in her favor. And she does handle those effective moments well enough, because they can get pretty heavy. But for the most part, I don't think the movie succeeds. But it's a commendable try on the concept. Like I said, maybe the book goes more into it, but if that's the case, maybe they could have stretched the movie out a little longer. It's only about an hour and a half, or like an hour 35. Maybe it could have benefited from a little more time, and maybe made the characters a bit more in-depth, thus caring more about what happens and when we get to that moment. And there are some good moments in here, but overall, it kind of falls flat because of the not so great outweighs the good. So that's what that is. So like I said, this is just to hold off until Spider-Man, which should be in the next couple of days. There'll be like a versus I would imagine later that night there should be Spider-Man, so I recommended to Owen he put it up as soon as he gets it, because it'll already be late. By then nobody will probably care, but just in case, just put it out there as soon as possible. So yes, that's what we've got going on here. I don't remember, I know we're getting into big movies now, like Planet of the Apes, so that'll be fun to get to, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So that's it.